Now, the sound of music is to the ear, and members of parliament are dancing to its tune as the House of Greed strikes once again.
Having previously earned themselves the infamous title MPs for their almost scandalous attempts to award themselves lavish parks, they're once again peeking into the public trough. The figures make for grim reading, and the band of their admirers is getting smaller.
And so meet the lords, the fortune-chasing members of parliament and the architects of the income, destroying austerity gospel that the government has been preaching. We delve into this and among other stories.
Tonight, can MPs' insatiable thirst for greater pay be tamed?
The president is not different from these people. The former prime minister is not different from these people. They are all cut from the same cloth.
Pressure mounts on party leaders.
Also, another policeman shot. Residents are fleeing, schools closing, trouble in Kasiela and Arabal.
Since serikali wachukue NPR, watu karibu 20 saa hii wamelazwa hospitali.
And more plans and promises.
We are reorganizing the way we are doing business in North Rift.
Plus, Bet-In fights for its license in court, but the betting culture is still taking a gamble with Kenya's youth.
Wamewacha kazi, mambo yao ni ya kukaa, na wanataka tu betting, yani pesa ya rais.
And one family, 4 deaths. The killer, the woman of the house.
Mke wake alimtema kwa amelala, akamgonga na shoka na tayari ametuacha. Baadaye mama akaendea watoto na akawaua.
NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu and Zeynab Ismail.
All right, and thank you so much for joining us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agondoa, but also remember, it's Sidebar.
Yes, and also coming up right after this on Sidebar, we delve into the tough wars between the National Assembly and, of course, the Senate. My panel tonight, legislators Mithika Lintuli, Peter Kaluma, and advocates Joy Mdivo and Martin Olo. Join the conversation. The hashtag, as always, is NTV Tonight. And, of course, we begin with our top story tonight. We have reported on the cold situation in the presidency, the icy relations that are seemingly dividing the president and his deputy. State House, in some respects, is cold and in need of something to warm it up. But this is getting another definition. State House is cold, as in charcoal.
Well, the House on the Hill has advertised for a tender for the supply of charcoal for the president's kitchen, which apparently uses the dirty fuel source. This is according to an advertisement set to run in Wednesday's dailies, throwing the topmost office on the heat of scrutiny, owing to the irony that the country has pronounced itself as being focused advancing clean energy for cooking. Well, the further burning issue here is that there is an existing ban on logging, which was extended for another year in November 2018, as the country struggles to attain at least 10% forest cover by 2022.
All right, interesting that adverts will be running in the dailies tomorrow, Wednesday. Right, that's the tender advertisement for State House to supply charcoal. Let's now move on to the other stories. From the cold at State House to the heat in Parliament of MPs push for more lucrative parks, and that have stroked emotions from Kenyans who believe their grid has become insatiable.
But are MPs being judged too harshly then? We pose this very question to the director of the Institute for Development Studies at the University of Nairobi, who thinks that the MPs are just a reflection of the society as anyone.
And of course, NTV's Kennedy Muredi has the details.
Focus on taming the growing appetite for public money by MPs now shifts to their leaders, the heads of their sponsoring political parties, as calls to have President Uhuru Kenyatta, his deputy William Ruto, and opposition leader Raila Odinga speak against it grow louder. Kenyans believe the zeal with which MPs are either asking for a pay rise or new allowances is alarming and should be checked.
The president is not different from these people. The former prime minister is not different from these people. They are all cut from the same cloth. And that's why the country needs to go back and start having serious discussion on integrity and type of leadership that we want to bring honor to public service.
A leaked memo from the Parliamentary Service Commission shows that MPs have been pushing the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to up their basic salaries from the current 532,500 shillings to 1.1 million shillings to be at par with the Court of Appeal judges. They also want a myriad of allowances that will bring their monthly income, each to about 3 million shillings. Professor Karuti Kanyinga, the Director for Institute of Development Studies at the University of Nairobi, says Kenyans should not rush to judge the MPs as they are a reflection of what the society is.
These MPs are not different from the ordinary MCAs in the county assemblies. The MCAs are not the MCAs themselves and the members of parliament, national parliament, are not very different from the church leaders we have seen around. In fact, for the church leaders, it's even worse. Because the church leaders, some of the church leaders have told us that actually the churches are kiosks.
Kanyinga is of the view that the get-rich-quick mentality had permeated the society and had even caught up with the younger generation.
Those who are complaining, given an opportunity, they would do the same. Given an opportunity, they would do the same. We have seen several studies with young people saying, if I'm given an opportunity, I wouldn't mind getting rich, no matter how I get rich.
He's called on the country to return to basics.
We have gone wrong and we are continuing to go wrong by neglecting Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
MPs have today continued their defense of the improved perks they clamor for, arguing that public servants in other arms of government enjoyed the same privileges. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
Well, members of parliament continue to push SRC to increase several allowances that the commission had already scrapped. If passed, that would raise their salaries from the current 1.1 million shillings to between 2.1 million shillings and 2.9 million shillings a month. But how much are other lawmakers earning from other countries? Well, the 365 MPs in Tanzania's parliament earn an average salary of 747,308 Kenya shillings and also entitled to a 4 million shilling equivalent car allowance and a host of other benefits, including a daily seating allowance. Uganda's parliament has 432 members who each take home a monthly salary of 896,337 Kenyan shillings plus a car allowance of 5.7 million shillings, equivalent among other allowances. The 360 MPs in Nigeria earn a whopping 1.6 million shillings every month. They're also entitled to a raft of non-taxable allowance in excess of about 6.1 million shillings. In South Africa, the 400 elected National Assembly members and 90 National Council of Province members take home a monthly salary of 1.5 million shillings, among other allowances. In Europe, MPs from the United Kingdom earn a monthly salary of 848,741 shillings, among other benefits. In India's parliament, the legislators earn a salary of 143,990 shillings, including other benefits that double up that amount. In the United States, senators and House representatives receive a monthly salary of 1.4 million shillings, and members of the Chinese government, including President Xi Jinping, were given a 62% pay rise in 2015, bringing the yearly earnings to 2.26 million shillings, equivalent across the board. All right, and moving on, united in pushing for lavish parks for themselves, but divided on how to share out funds for the counties, members of the National Assembly and the Senate will fight their supremacy battle in court, but at what cost? Well, NTV's Olive Barrows puts it into perspective.
If you are discussing a handbag that somebody has brought, then it means you lack business. And I wish I would advise the National Assembly to get more serious in the act, because even if you are seeing the issues they engage at the floor of the House, even kindergarten kids can do better.
This one is for a woman. No. It's actually, the way I'm seeing it, is a Louis Vuitton. The battle lines have been drawn and the debate is now at fever pitch.
The fact that the majority leader in the Senate, Mr. Speaker, is leading a process of going to court to establish the truth on laws of the Republic of Kenya should actually tell these characters that we are beyond intimidation.
The next port of call, the courts of law, where for the second time, the National Assembly and the Senate will engage in a supremacy battle. Having done so back in 2013,
the Speaker of the National Assembly was under duty to comply with the terms of Article 110, Sub-Article 3, 112, and 113 of the Constitution, and should have cooperated with the Speaker of the Senate as necessary
over the division of revenue bill.
The court is left as the neutral arbiter, and that's the road they will continue going until the court settle all the grievances that arise.
But not everyone is of the same mind.
Last resort means just that, and our constitution is deliberate that issues or disputes should be resolved outside court. So if you move to court just because you have a budget for it, I don't think that's a good justification.
The failure of independent organs of government to resolve their differences outside of court, raising serious questions as to the cost to the taxpayer and the advisory role of the Attorney General.
To what extent is the Attorney General intervening in intergovernmental disputes or disputes involving two or more critical organs of government?
The habitual engagement of outside counsel and exorbitant legal fees negotiated opaquely also indicates that some litigation could be little more than a money-making enterprise and calls into question the purpose of those engaged in the legal departments of government agencies.
I mean, if it's just a question of interpreting the Constitution, you must justify why you want to charge 300 million. Would you charge 300 million when that matter was referred to you by LSK? Or by another client? And I urge Parliament next time they're reviewing the budget to interrogate why constitutional organs that employ lawyers should have a huge budget for external counsel. It doesn't make sense. It's oxymoronic to say the least.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Right, this is part of our discussion tonight on Sidebar, and this past week has also witnessed some of the ugliest scenes in Parliament as members of the National Assembly and their Senate counterparts wrestle over roles and functions of the two houses. Now, the bone of contention was on who should be responsible for passing the law on how funds will be shared in counties through the division of revenue bill. And as NTV Silas Apollo reports, the supremacy battles between the two houses is not something new and can be traced back to a decision by some of the sitting members of parliament to neutralize the powers of both houses and especially that of the Senate.
It all started with a bitter exchange between the Senate Leader of Majority Kipchumba Murkomen and his National Assembly counterpart Aden Duale over the decision by President Uhuru Kenyatta to assent to the health bill. Murkomen had accused the National Assembly of failing to involve the Senate in debating the matter.
The Majority Leader of the Senate has absolutely no business with what goes on in the National Assembly.
I think some people for a long time are used to people they can intimidate. But I think I want to tell my colleagues that when it comes to standing for the mandate of the Senate and standing on the right side of history and the constitutional order, I cannot be intimidated.
It may have passed as a battle of egos between the two leaders, but the differences in opinion between the two houses they both represent would soon play out on the floor. This time, over the division of revenue bill.
Senators are now behaving like bandits, Mr. Speaker. They are bandits attacking the responsibility and functions of the National Assembly.
The other day they were investigating Kenya Airways, why Kenya Airways is collapsing. What county money is in Kenya Airways?
The Senate now says it will be moving to court to seek an interpretation of the law on the roles of both houses. But this is not the first time that the two houses have clashed. Just 5 years ago, the Supreme Court was forced to intervene after Parliament failed to agree on who should have a final say in the division of revenue bill. The court, in its advisory opinion, pointed to the symbiotic relationship between the two houses and advised that they should consult regularly on such matters. Some in the National Assembly have consistently argued that the Senate is the lower house and whatever it does must be approved by the National Assembly. To some critics, though, the Senate's troubles can be traced to a retreat held in Naivasha prior to the passing of the Constitution in 2010, and where legislators plotted to water down the powers of the Senate. The Committee of Experts envisioned a powerful Senate with immense powers over resource distribution, but politicians then saw it as a threat to the institution of the powerful presidency. The Committee of Experts then settled on a compromise. The Senate was neither an upper nor lower house. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Well, many Kenyans, especially the youth, are victims of a gaming and gambling sector that is not regulated enough to shield them from the exploitation of industry players and the ills that come along with betting and gambling. Now, the frustration has been put on the hands of members of parliament who stand accused of failing to enact proper gaming and gambling regulations amid fears of interference by key players in the betting industry. Well, NTV's Seth Olale highlights scenarios where various amendments in the lucrative industry were flatly rejected, a trend that could have informed the government's current spirited approach away from parliament.
It is only fair that Parliament is not intimidated.
In 2017, the then Deputy Minority Leader in the National Assembly, Jakoyo Midiwo, met the blockade by members of Parliament when his proposed bill on betting, aiming to increase betting tax from the then 7.5% to 15%, was flatly rejected in its second reading.
The motivation behind sports betting was to help generate revenue that we believed could be reinvested in sports.
Even the MP that you had lunch with, when the bill comes to the floor, hakujui.
3 years later, the drive to streamline the lucrative sector has been renewed. This time, the government is pushing the agenda outside Parliament, perhaps because of the legislators' frustration of previous attempts.
We are lucky that we have a resolute minister. Do it away from Parliament. Kenyans will support you.
Through the 2017 Finance Act, the government pushed betting, lotteries and gaming companies pay 35% corporate tax. However, there have been attempts in and out of Parliament to review this down to 15%.
Mr. Speaker,
in June 2018, the Sports, Culture and Tourism National Assembly Committee rejected all the proposed amendments to the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act to push the tax from 35% to 15%. In September last year, the National Assembly Finance and National Planning Committee sought to reintroduce the amendments through the Finance Bill 2018. Among other changes, the bill sought to reduce tax on gaming from 35% to 15%.
So we love sugar. We take sugar with tea.
MPs stand accused of being compromised through bribes by industry stakeholders so as to have them push for their interests. This was seen in cases such as the tabling of the sugar report, as well as bribery claims among legislators over the 2004 Tobacco Control Bill. There is concern over an alleged growing trend in Parliament where critical reports are either being adopted or thrown out, motions being passed or rejected, and certain clauses being introduced or removed from bills before the House due to partisan interests. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi County.
And still in the gaming and gambling sector, the fate of the country's betting industry is still in abeyance as one of the largest players in the industry, that's GameCode Limited, which trades in the country as Bet-In, moved to court to challenge the government's decision not to renew its operating license.
Well, Bet-In secured a temporary reprieve after the High Court suspended the decision to withdraw its license, but those affected by the government's crackdown on betting firms have expressed mixed feelings to the decision to enforce strict betting regulations. NTV's Brenda Wanga has the details.
It's midday in Nairobi's Umoja Estate, and Patrick Lumumba joins a handful of young men at a popular betting shop at the shopping center. He's been dipping in and out of the shop since 2015. He says he was introduced to betting by a friend.
Nimetumia 100 bob, nimeweka peti mbili, moja imechomeka ya 189,
but nimepata ya 561.
Over the years, he says he has learned the ins and outs of the activity and is careful not to get too immersed in it. He says he knows when to fold up and count his losses, which have been as significant as his wins.
Kuna wale watu wamekuwa addicted, naweza sema kwa kupeti. Kuna watu wengine unapata maybe akipata 100 yake anakimbia tu.
While Lumumba has been able to draw the line, a good portion of those who engage in betting and gambling haven't.
Sasa wamewacha kazi, mambo yao ni ya kukaa na wanataka tu betting, yani pesa rahisi.
And it is this lot that the government says it is keen to shield as it contemplates whether or not to renew the licenses of a good number of the betting and gambling firms. The government has not only deferred or suspended the licenses of at least 27 companies, it is also looking at deporting some of their directors. The government, through the Ministry of Interior, wants the companies to adhere to the regulations as set by the Betting Control and Licensing Board, as well as remit more taxes from the hundreds of billions they rake in profits. The betting industry will be hoping that the odds will be in their favor, even as the government continues to streamline the regulations that govern this multi-billion industry. Brenda Wanga, NTV, Nairobi.
Right, away from the gaming and gambling sector, let's now take you to the volatile Baringo area, where dozens of residents of Kasiela and Chemoroguen in Baringo South fled their homes following fresh gun attacks that left one person dead and another one nursing serious injuries.
Well, learning has also been disrupted in 5 schools, which have been closed indefinitely due to insecurity. NTV's Rose Wangoi paints a picture of the burdensome cost of insecurity in the troubled north.
Rampant cattle rustling has turned the lives of residents of Baringo South into an endless cycle of hunger, distress, and a disruption of their socio-economic life. On Monday, heavily armed bandits raided Chimorongion and Kasiela areas, killed a 20-year-old boy and seriously injured an elderly man who is currently admitted in hospital. The bandits also drove away an unknown number of livestock. Residents living under the shadow of fear and the gun violence have started to pack up and leave. The shopping center is now isolated, with only a few people going about their business. Unsure of their security, more than 30 families have abandoned their homes. They left with their children and livestock to seek refuge in the neighboring villages, the temporary havens from the violence.
Tangu mwanzo wa mwaka Araba location walifamia karibu mara 10 kupeleka ng'ombe, kupeleka mbuzi, kuumiza watu, na mpaka wa leo hatujaona serikali wakiturudishia ile mali ambao Pokot walichukua.
Watu karibu 20 saa hii wamelazwa hospitali. Guns were being withdrawn momentarily, it would be returned, and that they would be at disarmament. That has not happened. So we have a situation where you have exposed an entire community to attacks.
Esther Tala has seen conflict, loss of life, and hatred between communities. She and a neighbor fled to Arapal from Kasiela in Baringo South late last year after an attack by wrestlers.
Sasa nimehama mara ngapi? Mara 4. Kwa kuama na kurudi. Nasaliwa mtu siku moja na kwenda siku moja. Wewe ukua mara ngapi?
She says she and her family lost all their 20 cattle to the rustlers who left them with only 20 goats. Despite the deceptive intervals of quiet, fear still reigns in the valley of the shadow of death, where peace is held hostage to the coldness of the gun barrels. One police officer was injured after armed bandits ambushed yet another police lorry traveling from Marigat to Kapedo. This just barely a day after 3 other officers were injured in yet another ambush after their truck traveling from Marigat to Kapedo was attacked.
We want to have NPR working together, not one tribe, NPR with a gun, and we leave them on their own.
The incident has affected learning at Kapinda Sam, Arapal, Kasiela and Chemorongion primary schools after residents fled in fear of more attacks. Rozongo, NTV.
Right, then Baringo always in the news for all the wrong reasons. It's not drought or something, it's always about violence and what's happening.
And the insecurity, especially at this particular point. We really hope something can be done about that.
Indeed.
We'll take a very short break. We still have much more lined up for you. Stay tuned.
When we say you,
we mean all of you, including the little ones. You'll all get special individual care from our qualified staff.
Good Life. We're all about you. Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in one day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it at a fair interest rate that adjusts to your needs. Okash connects seamlessly with your M-Pesa account to facilitate and speed up your loan requests. Download Okash today from Google Play Store and join thousands of Kenyans enjoying the Okash experience.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom
for me and you.
I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. What a wonderful world.
It's all fun and games until you win 200,000 shillings with just 20 bob and you go super. Just go to paybill number 299555. Pick your 5 lucky numbers between 0 and 9 followed by NTV as your account number. Choose your bet amount between 20 shillings and 1,000 shillings.
Over 18s only. Gaming can be addictive. Play responsibly. This message has been approved by the BCLB.
Children bring joy to our lives, but they grow up so fast. Soon it's time for college, and by that time, college fees can be a huge expense. For as little as 3,500 Kenya shillings, Educare combines life insurance with savings for college. Download the SE mobile app, open an account and start saving now. Be life ready.
Are you investing in land? Strategic land? Konza Greens is the only controlled residential development within Konza Techno City Buffer Zone, a gated community setup less than 2 kilometers from Konza SGR station and adjacent to the standard gauge railway. Get an 1/8 of an acre plot for only 490,000 Kenya shilling or an installment plan starting as little as 15,000 Kenya shilling per month. Take advantage of this grand opportunity by texting the word Konza to 22002. Secure your future today. Diamond Property Merchants, your home of strategic land investment.
By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife.
Our world felt like a storybook. We were unstoppable. Eternity was ours.
She never wavered from the vow she made to me on our wedding day. I wish I could say the same. I need you to sign the divorce papers.
The greatest gift a father can give his children is to love their mother.
As the days turned into weeks, I could feel myself changing inside, physically, spiritually, and even mentally as well.
Okash is the quickest and easiest way to request short-term loans from your mobile phone whenever you need them. You can borrow up to 50,000 Kenya shillings in one day and choose between a 14 or 28-day term to repay it. Download Okash today from Google Play Store, enjoying the Okash experience.
And we are back with NTV tonight. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa. Let's now talk education. And the Ministry of Education and the Teachers Service Commission officials held a closed-door meeting today with the management of Nairobi School after claims of assault and bullying rocked the school.
Well, the story of a 15-year-old Form 2 student at the school alleged to have been assaulted brutally by school prefects to the extent of suffering brain damage kicked off a storm. His parents say they received a call from the school last week informing them that their son was unwell and they should pick him up.
And his mother shared her frustration in a WhatsApp group composed of parents with students at the school. A Facebook user blew the whistle on the plight of the students, sparking a heated online conversation.
Well, the student will undergo a brain surgery as a medical examination conducted on him revealed fluid in the brain. Both the school and the ministry are yet to issue a statement on the alleged incident, which is also under police investigation.
Away from that, a 60-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly defiling a 9-year-old girl inside a parked public transport vehicle in Kiganjo, that's in Nyeri County.
Well, the minor was traveling in a public transport vehicle with her grandmother and sister from Gashika to Kiganjo when the suspect offered to hold her on his lap as the vehicle was already packed to capacity.
It is during the 10-minute drive that the man allegedly groped her and touched her inappropriately. She was taken to Kiganjo Dispensary for medical attention upon alighting, and the suspect is being held at the Kiganjo police station.
Quite an unfortunate incident, I mean, there.
Yeah.
Well, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, will be filing a constitutional application before Chief Justice David Maraga to appoint a 3-judge bench to hear and determine the criminal case against the city lawyer, Asa Nyakundi.
Nyakundi, through his lawyers, has questioned the constitutionality and validity of the murder charge preferred against him, even though the DPP had already charged him with manslaughter. Nyakundi argues that the manslaughter charge against him has to be discharged for him to face a fresh charge.
Well, Justice Jesse Lasit said the matters raised by the lawyer who's facing charges for shooting and killing his son were weighty and needed to be heard by more than one judge. The matter will be heard on the 18th of July.
And a man accused of defiling a 13-year-old girl living with disabilities seems to have cheated the system and earned himself freedom on account of being mentally unfit to stand trial.
The man, who is the victim's neighbor in Kibwezi, benefited from letters from 2 major medical facilities which showed that he was intellectually challenged. The victim's family is crying foul.
And 3 years on, and they presented a video in court which throws the case into a spin, placing a spotlight on the police and officials from the hospital.
Justice delayed is justice denied, a phrase that tangibly rings for one family in Kibwezi East, Makueni County. Their 13-year-old daughter's innocence was allegedly robbed by a man they know, a neighbor. The grandmother says Eric Wambua came to her home to borrow a matchbox on the 14th of April 2017 when he allegedly defiled the 11-year-old girl before fleeing. The case was reported at Kibwezi police station and tests confirmed she had been defiled.
Na baadaye akapewa B3, kijana akashikwa. Baadaye kijana alitoka na bond. Nikiwa nyumbani nikapata fununi kwamba kuna mwalimu wa shule ya Kinyambu Primary aliandika barua ya kusema huyu kijana ni mlemavu kama mtoto wangu.
But their quest for justice at the Makindu law courts was frustrated.
Tukatolewa koti ile, tulikuwa koti 1 tukaenda koti 3. Kwenda koti 3 kijana akaenda akakula free akafungiwa.
On 14th June 2017, a letter from the Mathari National Teaching and Referral Hospital addressed to the principal magistrate in Makindu said the suspect had moderate intellectual disability and therefore he was not fit to stand trial. Another letter from Makindu County Hospital said the suspect was autistic. On account of these reports, he was released as he was not fit to stand trial. 11 days later, at the hearing, the defiled girl's family presented to the court a secretly filmed video of the suspect playing and conversing happily with friends in the village. The victim's grandmother has accused the police at Kibwezi police station of sneaking in a fake letter from Mathari Hospital. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Well, we hope justice can prevail in that particular matter. Well, a woman in Marurui, Dhome area murdered her husband and 2 children earlier today before hanging herself. The unidentified woman was a food vendor in the area, is said to have committed the act over disagreements with her husband.
Right, too many sad news today, and neighbors stumbled upon the chilling discovery after she failed to turn up at her usual workplace. Stacey Kirori reports.
A stunned crowd milling around the home of Joseph Gitau and his young family only partly tell of the horror that unfolded inside. Before the break of dawn and while in deep slumber, Joseph was hacked to death by his wife. She would then strangle her 2 children aged 2 and 12 before she hung herself.
Unfortunately, ni kama mke wake alimtema kuwa amelala, akamgonga na shoka na tayari ametuacha. Baadaye mama akaendea watoto na akawaua wawili, mmoja ni wa miaka 12.
Mwanamke ni kama alikuwa ameamka amefanya usafi zake. So mi hata chenye inaniuma sana ni watoto. Mtoto hujakosea mtu.
Residents in the area are lost for answers as the family looked perfectly idyllic, save for the usual differences between the couple that would at times play out even in the public. But they appeared to have resolved them.
Ningetaka kuapili kwa members of public. Ukiona mko na tofauti kidogo ama ni tofauti ambayo inaweza leta hasara kama hii, ni vizuri kujiondoa mapema. Na hakuna mtu, sana watu wanasemanga wazee ndio wanaume ndio wanaua wa mama, lakini hakuna mtu ambaye hawezi ua mtu.
The eerie silence now envelops the home once filled with laughter and tells of a different story, that of a tragic end to a young family. Stacey Kirori, NTV.
Right, this is a very sad story, and it reminds me of some of the discussions that the country has been having in the recent past over depression,
mental health
in the country. And this is just a state of mental health, and whichever way you look at it, you kill your children, husband, and then you harm yourself.
Yeah,
nothing more speaks about mental
health. It's very tragic, and you know what sets this story apart is the fact that most of the stories that we get in the newsroom of men killing their wives and their children.
Yeah.
So this is a woman killing different. Well, we really hope something can be done to end these tragic deaths that we witnessed every single day. Let's take a short break. Julian Samboko is ready to bring you all the business stories.
They come from across the continent, east, west, North and South Africa. This is the story of the Africa International University.
I'm from Ethiopia.
From Nigeria. I'm from South Sudan.
I'm from Kenya. From Liberia, West Africa.
Ours is an all-round approach to education, focusing on the spiritual, the intellectual, attitudes and skills. Our students are all-rounded.
Hi, welcome to AIU.
For more information on our programs, log on to www.aiu.ac.ke. info@aiu.ac.ke.
Who wants to answer? Mary?
Mary has a toothache.
Oh, I see. And who knows why?
Because the tooth is too big.
No, it might be a hole in her tooth called a cavity.
That's why I brush twice a day using Colgate. Imagine this is your tooth and these are food acids that cause cavities. Colgate with calcium and fluoride helps prevent cavities
for maximum cavity protection. And now available in a 12-gram sachet for fresh breath. Only 15 shillings.
Why are so many children absent? Children have become weaker. Children have not become weaker. Infection-causing germs have become stronger, making infections more severe. New Life More with active from today's stronger germs.